Okay, so this is the Ditra Heat Duo. It used to be called Ditra Heat TB, but now it's called Ditra Heat Duo because it acts as, it's got this padding on the back, which is a thermal break when you go over concrete, and also it acts as a sound deadening for sound insulation as well. So that's why they give the Ditra Heat Duo this gray membrane on the back here. If you can see the thickness here, this acts as a thermal break so that on concrete your floor heats up faster and you don't get as much heat loss. So this is a thermal break when you go over concrete, but otherwise than that, it's exactly the same as the regular Ditra Heat, and you put it down the same way. So this is what I'm doing. Okay, so the way I do it is I cut everything in first. So it's all cut in, all of it. So a couple of important things here you want to know is that you don't want to go right tight up to the wall. You want to leave a little bit of a gap so it has room to expand and contract. Now this is still a little loose and I can still adjust it a little bit, but it's all cut in. And the reason I do that is so you're not going from one thing to another, going from rolling it out, fitting it, cementing it down, cut another piece, etc., etc. I just like to do it one step at a time. So it's all cut in, and I'm going to install this with, even though it's on concrete, I put some self-leveler down, and I didn't make a video of that, but it's just, too fast moving. So I'm going to use Schluter All Set to install it. So you get the Schluter warranty. If you use all the Schluter components, you get the complete Schluter warranty. And the wire is here. In this case, it's 240 touchscreen thermostat. So right now I'm going to cement all this in, and I'm not going to show the testing on this one, but I'm going to test this with the mega ohm meter, and I'm going to test the wire, and there's a couple probes in there that I'm going to test with the mega ohm meter 3 times, with the meter and mega ohm meter 3 times. Once when you take it out of the box, after you've got in the wire in the floor, and the 3rd time when the tile is installed. So you want to make sure that you didn't cut it, you didn't disturb it, and there are no breaks in the wire. So, and then I'm not going to show that how I do that in this video, but I will link to several videos showing how you test the wire, etc. Now you can test it 2 ways. You can test it with just the multimeter, or you can test it with the multimeter and the mega ohm meter. The difference is you get a longer warranty if you use the mega ohm meter to test it, and you can do all the recording. Anyway, I'll show all that on I will link to that in the description and maybe in the cards. So this is what's left of 2 rolls, and this is the things that I'm going to use. This goes down with a 1/4-inch square notch trowel. I'm going to mix it at the high end of the water volume. I also have a video showing exactly how to mix the Schkuter Thinset, and I will also link to that. So anyway, I'm going to get to it. Okay, so I mixed the Thinset according to the directions. I'm going to use a 1/4-inch square notch trowel, and first I'm going to dampen the substrate, then I'm going to back trowel the Thinset, and then I'm going to notch it. Okay, so it's all down. I got some weight in a few spots here. I'm just curling up. Not too bad. Just curling up on the ends there. And then under the toe kick. Okay, so I'm going to put the wire down. Okay, so the rules for the wire are pretty simple for inserting the wire. So what you need to do is stay 3 inches away from the walls. The wire goes no closer than 3 pucks together. Actually, on this one here, I'm making a mistake, and I'm doing a 4, so I just pushed it back down to 3. So pay attention to what you're doing. You got to stay 8 inches away from a heat source in all directions. So if you've got a vent in the floor, you're going to stay 8 inches away from all sides of that. You're going to stay 8 inches to a foot away from any toilet drain where the wax ring is, because you don't want it to heat up the wax ring and make it soft. And you're not going to install the wire where it's going to be permanently covered by something. Like, you're not going to go over under a vanity if it is completely enclosed. You're not going to go into a closet. You're not going to go where there's going to be a permanent fixture like a refrigerator or a stove or something like that. So it has to be in an open area. You cannot cut the wires. You cannot modify the wire in any part, in any way. So you have to do these little loops here because you can't have a run of wire more than 10 feet. You cannot coil the wire up and leave it somewhere if you've got too much, and you can't leave the wire that is not installed under the tile. So all the wire has to be installed, it can't be modified, and it has to be embedded into the tile. It's actually pretty simple, and if you ever done this, you'll see that it's really not that difficult to do. So when I'm installing the wire, I just like to use a, as you can see here, it's just a speed square, because it's plastic and it's not going to damage the wire, just to embed it between the pucks. You can use a float, you can use a wooden float or trowel. You don't want to use anything metal that could actually damage the wire. I've never had a problem with damaging a wire. I've installed quite a few of these floors, and it's actually pretty resilient if you just pay attention to the rules and follow directions. So the thermostat probes have to stay about a foot in to the where the wires are. You don't want to put it on an edge. So once you got your wire down, you just install your tile as usual. There's no special precautions you have to take. The wire is actually pretty much, you never touch the wire because it's embedded below the pucks, so it's really not a problem installing a tile as usual. No special requirements are needed. You just got to follow the rules of the type of thin set you're going to use. In this case, I'm using a Schluter set, which is the unmodified version of Schluter's thin set. If you wanted to, you could actually use Schluter All Set, which is a modified version of that thin set. However, if you're going to use someone else's thin set, then you should use the unmodified to maintain the warranty. So as I said, I'm going to put a link in the description and probably also in the cards in the top right hand corner to show the process of testing the wires, which is you test the wire when you open the box. Before you install the wire, you test it again after it's been inserted into the pucks on the Ditra mat, and then you test it a last time, the third time, after you've installed the tile. And then
You wait 10 days before you actually turn it on and use it. You can turn it on to test it immediately, but you don't want to leave it on. You want to give it 10 days so that the thinset can cure and become strong, and you don't dry out the thinset prematurely by turning the heat on. So that's very important. You can test it to see if it works, but have the electrician turn it on and test it, but then you want to turn it off and let the thinset cure for 10 days before you actually put the heated floor into use. Okay, so the process I use for installing a tile over the Ditra Heat is, in this case, like I said, I'm using an unmodified thinset, which is actually Schluter's Schluter set, which is unmodified. And when you're installing over Ditra, whether it be the heat mat or it is a regular Ditra or the Ditra XL, you always want to make sure that all the cavities are completely filled. You don't want to leave any voids, because the thinset does not actually stick to the mat. It is held in place because of the configuration or the profile of the mat, which has a cutback or like a kind of a dovetail profile, which locks the thinset into the mat without actually sticking to it. So it's actually mechanically held down to the mat. And that's actually part of the process of the Ditra mat, how it works to uncouple the floor from the substrate. And this is actually a very good thing, because it doesn't transfer movement under the substrate to the tile. So getting back to the thinset, you want to make sure that you completely fill the voids, everything. So you use the back side of the trowel, go in a couple of directions to make sure it's full. Then you flip over the trowel and you use the notch side of the trowel. It's always beneficial to use directional troweling. What that means is that all the thinset lines are going in one direction. Best practice is to go the short way of the tile. Sometimes you can't do that for whatever reason, but it's better to go the short way. I am using, and the reason actually you do that is so that you can collapse the ridges of the thinset and get the recommended coverage. In a dry area, it's 80%. In a wet area, it's 95%. But 100% is always desired, no matter where the installation is. And then for stone, usually it's 95%, regardless of the area where it's being installed. So here this is a large format tile. A large format tile is any tile having one side larger than 15 inches. So I am using a fairly deep trowel. This is actually a 1/2 inch deep trowel, a 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch. You can use a 1/2 inch square notch trowel if you want. This is actually a U-notch trowel. Usually the thicker, the larger the tile, the deeper the trowel. In most cases, that is true. I also like to use a lippage system or a leveling system. And the one I usually use is T-lock. I'll leave a link for that as well. So if you installing a heated floor over concrete, the Ditra Heat Duo is a good choice, and then you install your tile according to what it's supposed to be installed, depending on the size of the tile and the type of tile. But once you've got the heat mat down, the tile installation goes as normal. There's really no special things that you have to do to install it properly. Just install it how you normally would. So as far as I'm concerned, back buttering is always a good idea. Not everyone does this, but it's always good in the sense that if you've got a deep pattern on the back of your tile, when you push it into the thinset, if you haven't back butted your tile, it's going to be much more difficult to fill that pattern. Some tiles are flatter than others. Some tiles have a deep pattern in the back. So by back buttering, you're filling all those voids, and then you're actually keying the thinset into the back of the tile, which means you're going to get a much better bond. Because you're pressing the thinset into the entire surface of the thinset, just not only where just the teeth would make contact with that surface. So it's always a good idea. With smaller tiles, a 4x4 or a smaller tile, or mosaic tiles, is really not necessary. But on a larger tile, I think it's actually a really good idea. It gives you better bond. Also using a leveling system, because these are large format tiles. A large format tile is defined as a tile having one side longer than 15 inches. So if you've got a 6 by 24 inch tile, that is actually considered a large format tile, because you've got a short side, which is 6 inches, but you've got a long side, which is 24 inches. So you will get a superior installation with a leveling system. Large format tiles, just because of the manufacturing process, are very rarely flat. There's always a bow to the tile, pretty much always. So a leveling system will help you control a lippage. A lot of guys think it's unnecessary. I myself think it's going to give you a much better installation. The system I'm using here is T-Lock, and it's the one I like the most. It's a wedge type system. There are also many other systems available, and I've tried many of them. If you go to my channel and look, you'll see that I've tried many systems. T-Lock is the one I prefer. Okay, so just as a little extra information, this was a basement floor where the homeowners were very unhappy with the comfort of the room because it was always so cold. This was actually an office for the homeowner. Even though there was heat in the room, as you can see the vents there, it was right off the garage, and the room was always cold for them, especially on their feet. So the Ditra Heat actually made this room much more comfortable for them, and they're going to enjoy spending time in here, because they're just going to be more comfortable, especially in the winter. So, as always, don't forget to subscribe. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Check out my online store, dibsmart.com. And also, I am now on Patreon. So if you become a patron and support me so I can continue to make these videos and actually make more content that I'm not able to make now, you will also have access to exclusive content which you're not going to see on YouTube. So I will leave a link to that in the description below, and thanks for watching.
Okay, so all the tile is down. Clean up a little bit and go out.